Hi everyone, my name's Jo Barclay Logie and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today is not a mini tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a new design that I've just come up with, and I've called it Dazzling Duos. Pretty random, not very specific, but it's because I have used IrisDuos in this cuff, in this little bracelet. But the pattern and the tutorial or the demo would work just as well with gemduos, with diamonduos, with superduos, and of course the IrisDuos, which I have used here together with seed beads. So I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful little cuff bracelet in this demo today. As we all know, bead weaving is pretty repetitive once you know the stitch. So it can be boring to watch hours and hours of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a really small section, and as you can see it's just the same repeat the whole way along the bracelet. So what you need for this are two different colours of your 11s, and I have got metallic plum, one of my favourites, love it, and another one, if you don't know me you will soon know that opaque turquoise green is my ultimate favourite. I'm definitely a turquoise girl. So I've got metallic plum, opaque turquoise green, that's in my 11s, and then I've got 1/8, and again that's in the opaque turquoise green, and I've got my IrisDuos, and as I mentioned, you don't need to use IrisDuos. Try this with gemduos, with diamonduos or superduos. The same sort of pattern will work. And the colour of these IrisDuos is known as chalk white Lila Vega Luster. And you can see I've just used a toggle clasp on the ends, just an ordinary toggle. So yeah, that's all there is to what you're going to need in your ingredients or your materials for this project, and let's get started. In this project I'm going to use 2 needles. You could do the entire project with 1 needle. I'm just going to slide this back in here. So using 2 needles, I'm going to come straight up the middle where the IrisDuos are, with a needle going through each of the holes. So IrisDuos are double drilled, so I'll have 1 needle on the left and 1 needle on the right, and then this needle will do all the top lattice work and the bottom needle will do all the lattice work along the base. You could do it just with 1 needle, but it means you're going to be going along the top holes of the IrisDuo and coming back to connect along the bottom holes of the IrisDuos as well. So I'm going to use 2 needles, and I used about 3 meters of thread. I'm using size 10 beading needles, and I'm using 6-pound fire line, and I've thread the thread on equally to each needle, so that when I start my design I'm going to get things in the middle. And I'm going to start by picking up 2 of the 8s, and if I hold my needles together and I pull those 8s down, I should get them in the center of my thread. Okay, so they're at the base in the center of my thread. Then I'm going to pick up an IrisDuo. Now the first one I pick up is not essential to check the way I'm doing it, but as you can see I've got 1 needle through the right and 1 needle through the left, and again I'm going to hold the needles together and I'm going to pull that IrisDuo down to meet those 8s, and that should be in the center of my work. So if I move my thumb out the way, that's what I have now. So this middle strip is connecting IrisDuos with 8s in between. Now what you need to ensure, sorry, I know I'm jiggling things all over here, you need to ensure that all your IrisDuos are picked up facing the same way, because, and if you're using gemduos it's the same thing, they've got a rounded edge one side and they are flattened on the other. So I've got my 2 8s, my IrisDuo. I need an 8 either side again, so 1/8 onto each needle, and then I'm going to pick up another IrisDuo. So through one side, and I know that I've picked it up the correct way so that it's going to match the rounded edge that side. And I'm just going to pull those all the way down to join the others. Alright, so I'm going to do one more, and I'm just separating my threads here so that I get the correct needle on the right side. And it's an 8 onto each needle, and then an IrisDuo, or a gemduo, or a superduo. The IrisDuos are slightly bigger than the superduos, so you may have to alter the count of your size 11s. Right, so there I have the central section of my bracelet, and what you want to do is you're going to continue doing that for the full length of the bracelet that you are making. So if you normally wear a 7-inch bracelet, you're going to probably bead this strip for about 6.5 inches, stopping a little short because you're going to be adding in your clasp. So once you've beaded the full length, remember I said I'm just going to show you a small section, otherwise we'd be here for hours. Once you've finished your required length, I started with 2/8, so I want to finish with 2/8. So again, I'm going to pick up an 8 with either needle, with both the needles I should say, let them drop down, and that's where I'm going to stop. But to secure them, I'm going to take the needle that is, we've got the thread exiting from this 8 on the base, and I'm going to pass it through the 8 on the top. And I'm going to do the same with the thread that's exiting the 8 at the top. I'm going to pass it through the 8 at the base. And there you have your strip. Now imagine that you've done the full strip ready to continue on to the next. In the next step, we're going to be beading above and below the IrisDuos, and we're going to be doing these little zigzaggy bits that encase the IrisDuos, both ends. And that includes this little top bit here, which is a little picot with the different coloured seed bead. So it's all the opaque turquoise green, and we do a little picot at the top, and then we come back down to this 8, and we go back up, a little picot at the top, and back down to the other side of the IrisDuo. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So as our strip stands at the moment, we've got thread at the base here so that we can work the lattice work on the base, and we've got thread at the top to work the top edge. I'm just going to turn mine around at the moment because you're just going to work one side at a time. So I'm going to pick it up so it's easier for you to see and easier for me to bead. And to do this first little encasing around the top of this IrisDuo, I'm going to pick up 2 of my opaque turquoise 11s. Let them come down, and they're going to sit there. I'm now going to do the little picot, which involves 4 beads. So it's going to be 1 for the base, and then I need a side, which is going to be the turquoise, the tip, which is going to be the plum, and another side, which is going to be the turquoise, and I'm going to come back through that 4th bead, but from the opposite direction that the thread is exiting from. And when I pull my needle through, I have those 4 beads that form a little cross. Now you want to move it down, so just with your nail and your fingers, you just slide it back down to those other beads. So that's coming up the side, and to the top we need 2 more opaque turquoise 11s to come down the other side and through the 8. So there I have my first little zigzag. And remember, because this is not tight, if I pull this end tight, you'll see it a bit more clearly. Once you've beaded both sides, it pulls all your work into the correct position. So we're ready to come up and over the second iris duo. So we had 2 plus the 1 for the picot. So I'm going to pick up 3 at one time, and I'm going to let those drop down. And I'm ready to do the little picot now, which is one side, the turquoise, the top, the plum, and another side of the turquoise, and back through that bead. Pull my thread in, and I need to just adjust by using my fingers to slide that little picot top down to the other beads. And now I need 2 11s to come down the other side of that iris duo and through the 8. If I pull the other side tight again, so you can see how that zigzag is starting. So I'm going to do this last one on this side, and then I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing with this thread on the other side, and I will come back. As you can see, I've done my little zigzag edging down both ends or around both ends of the iris duo, and I've got the last zigzag on the right with the thread exiting the 8, and the last zigzag on the left with the thread exiting the 8. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross over my threads. So I'm going to hold it this way. This is the thread coming out of the 8 at the top, and I'm going to just come through the 8 and those 11s on that side. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the thread from the base. I just don't want them to be tangled up. It's coming out of the 8 on the base, and I'm going to go through the 8 and those 11s along the top edge. All right, and that's actually quite pretty as it is, like that, but I needed to take it a step further, because when I wear bracelets, these little bits that stick out can fold under or over the top, and it really annoys me. So as you can see here, we've got beads joining these gaps together, which adds to the lattice work there. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. And again, you're working one side at a time. So we've just pulled the thread through, and what I want to do is have my needle exiting that little 11 on the side there, so the turquoise one, like that. And I'm now beading back in this direction, the direction of my needle, to connect all these little sticky outy bits together. And the way I'm going to do that is with the 8s. So I'm going to pick up 1 8. I'm coming out of a turquoise 11 on the side, and I'm going to go down through the turquoise 11 of the next picot. Now I need to make my way through the beads, because you don't want thread showing, so it's through that little 11 that forms the base. Make sure you're going through the bead. And then up through the 11, the turquoise one that's on the side again, ready to join the next 2 together. You can see what a neat finish that gives. So again, pick up an 8. I'm coming out of the turquoise on the side of the picot. The thread is exiting the top, and I'm going to come back down through the turquoise 11 on the side of the next picot and pull it tight. And I would be continuing, so I would need to go through the 11 at the base, and out through the 11 on the side. And obviously you will have a much longer strip, and you would just continue adding your 8s. So I'm going to fill in the other side quickly, exactly the same way as I've done this side, and then I'll come back to you and just explain to you how I added on the clasp. So as you can see, I have now completed my lattice work, both sides, and I've got my threads exiting those little 11s on the sides, and that's actually perfect for me to add in a clasp. However, I don't need both threads for the clasp, so you can actually take one of these now and end it off within your beadwork by tying a couple of double half hitch knots and then zapping off your thread. So I'm going to show you how to attach. You can see it's really simple. Both sides you'll attach the same way. So my thread is coming out, if I move this way so that it looks the same, it's coming out of that little 11 on the side, and I'm basically going to add in some seed beads up to part of the clasp and down through that little 11 on the other side. So if I move that one out the way, I've got one end of a clasp this side, and I'm going to use the same turquoise opaque green 11s, and I'm going to pick up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm going to let those drop down, and I'm going to come through. I get asked this question a lot, how to add a clasp. So I'm going to come through the loop of my clasp, whether it's the loop or the bar, the toggle or the bar, and I'm going to come back down through 3 of those 11s, and I'm just going to hold that there while I pull my needle through. So that leaves me 6 because I added 9 to begin with, and I've come back down through 3, so I'm going to pick up 6 to go down the other side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to come in through this 11 on the side. I know my other thread is still there because I haven't ended it off. Pull it in tight, and now I'm ready to thread through some of my beads, find a suitable place to do a couple of double half hitch knots, and there's my clasp attached. So I really hope you've enjoyed my dazzling duos. I'd love to see some of your makes, so you can find me on Facebook, Jo Barclay Logie. Send me a picture, especially if you've used one of the other duos to try this. So here's your finished project. I'd love to see the pictures. If you've got any questions, just pop them down in the comments below and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. And I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.